Hi, and welcome to yet another Takeaway Tuesday presented by the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Jim Norris, and today with me is Marcia Mantell, who's been with us for most of these.
And we're also being joined by Paul Nixon from the local company Indie Firm. Thank you for joining us today, Paul.
My pleasure.
Maybe you could tell us just a little bit about Indie Firm.
We are a beer and kombucha brewery and a homebrew shop and a hop farm located right here in Plymouth. The tap room, brewery, kombucha, homebrew shop is all at 127 Camelot Drive. And yeah, we make fine craft beers, also craft kombucha. Our homebrew shop has supplies for making all sorts of beverages, beer, wine, cider, kombucha. And we also have a small hop farm here in Plymouth with 400 plants.
So today we've asked you here because we want to talk a little bit about outsourcing, right? And and Marcia, you and I have talked about this a lot, but it's a difficult thing when you're running a small business to know when it makes sense to actually invest in outsourcing of services, right? It's We've all changed the water at the water cooler. We've all made coffee. We've done all these things, and we think we can do more. But eventually, we get to a point where it doesn't make sense for us to try to do certain things because A, we're either not an expert, or B, it takes away from our time doing the things that we are experts in. So, um, Paul, maybe you could talk a little bit about times where you've said, I need help here. I can't do this myself. And what have those been?
Yeah, so as the company has grown to make, well, even from the beginning, I had some volunteer help in the brewing side of things. I've always done the distribution myself and most of the packaging. Now we're at the point where we have, I think we're at 6 or 7 employees, which includes a couple of assistant brewers. Um, and we've got some taproom staff, a homebrew shop manager, and a kombucha brewer. So we've grown into, from a company that where I did actually do pretty much everything with some help to a company where actually I'm doing more management now and not as much hands-on brewing, which is where it all kind of started. So the employees are certainly a huge help. We've got a great team of people. And then as we've grown, I've also recognized the need to get some outside help, things like label design, something I have absolutely no skills in whatsoever. So it was smart to have someone else design our can and bottle labels. Costs a bit more money, but it's definitely worth it because the appearance of the cans on the shelf is important. And if I was doing it myself, I mean, nobody would want to buy what I would draw on a can. So that wouldn't work too well. So that was like the first thing that came to my mind when
Yeah,
you mentioned outsourcing. Then
sure.
a couple others, if you want me to carry on, or if you want to ask a question or two, feel free.
Well, let's talk about the labeling and the label design for a second, right? So obviously that's a situation where there's enough software available out there, and you could have probably taught yourself to use the software, and you probably could have made a label that had all the requisite information, right? You could have had the name, and you could have had the ingredients or whatever other nutritional information maybe you'd want to have on there. Um, but that was a situation where you recognize that maybe you're not a designer, and so you didn't want to try to fool around with that. Is that what happened?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate. I don't have the software. I would have had to
Okay.
buy
Right.
or whatever the software. Would have had to learn how to use it. Instead of investing the time to learn that, the time I didn't have anyway, it made sense to have someone else do the labels right from the start. Also, like the logo design and things like that. We'll come up with the ideas between Rose and myself. We'll come up with the ideas and tell the designer, okay, I want it to look like such and such. Our new one, just as a quick example, is called Smoke Gets in Your IPA. It's a smoky IPA. I think it's the first one that the first one I know of anyway. There's probably something out there. But we told the label designer, make it look like a hobo barrel, like a burn barrel with flames coming out the top. Because when you stand next to a hobo fire, you're always going to get the smoke in your eye, no matter where you stand.
Okay.
So the smoke gets in your IPA, and it kind of all worked and came together. And he came up with a perfect design on the first try.
Okay. So in terms of evaluating whether you think that was a success or not, it sounds like it was. So you say to yourself, that was worth the investment, I assume.
Yeah, when you get the invoice, you go, I'm not so sure, but it's going to be that cost will be divided amongst a lot of beer cans. So when I look at it that way, and think we'll probably make this beer for years to come, then it's worth it.
So that's one thing. And you talked about hiring employees a little bit earlier too. And I know that's another big thing for small business owners is when do we make that investment to go from 1 to 2 or 3 to 5 or whatever that number is, to allow us to do more. And we struggle with that as well. Um, but but taking it past that into other outsourced things, have you looked at other things like accounting services or payroll or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Those are things that I have even less skills in than I do in graphic design. So that was an easy decision and one of the first ones. When we started hiring and paying our volunteer staff and they became paid employees, I had to figure out how to do payroll and get checks cut and sent and everything else. And we did it for like a week and realized, and Rose did most of the legwork on this. And between the two of us, we realized this is not really what we got into business to do. It's not how we want to spend our time. So we pretty quickly talked to our accountant, who we already had on board. And he has a payroll service that he recommends and works through. So we send the weekly hours to the accountant, who sends it to the payroll company. And by magic, the employees get paid. And I don't have to worry about it anymore. I think payroll service costs us $80 a month, something like that. Well worth it for me not to have to deal with it.
Would you say that without the help of outside experts, you would have been able to grow the business to the level you have or as quickly as you have?
I guess the obvious answer is no. It wouldn't have worked as well as quickly. Although it's been 7 years, it doesn't seem quick anymore. Yeah, no, the outside help, especially for the payroll and stuff like that. If we still were struggling with that now, 7 years later, we probably would have given up on it, entirely, gone back to just home brewing. I mean, that would be one thing that could break the camel's back, would be having to do all that work.
Yeah. Okay. Marcia, what about you? I mean, I know you struggle with a lot of the same things. Is there anything that you could point to that you at one point said, I'm not doing this anymore, either because you didn't like it or you didn't think maybe you were doing it as well as somebody else could have?
Yeah, the big things for me are on the technology side. So I do a lot of content development. I have retirement expertise. I can tell you anything you want to know about Social Security. But, do I have my cyber crime, security in place on my laptop? These weren't concerns 15 years ago when I got started. So you do have to evolve with the world as well. So it's both the technology from that perspective, but also my website. At some point, as the business grows and you are trying to showcase to the world that you're actually a professional business, you have to farm this stuff out. So the website development, I went from an amateur version when I first started out to something that is much more professional. And it when people that you're trying to hire on, or they're trying to hire you as a producer, and they become a client for me and they say, hey, by the way, your website was really nice. They wouldn't have said that a few years ago.
This is Takeaway Tuesdays. So, we try to give the membership just 1 or 2 things that they can take away from our discussion. And I think maybe I'll try to sum it up for everybody if I can, because I've been making some notes here. But it can be scary to invest money on things when you maybe don't have it or you don't have as much as you would like to have. And so the temptation is always there to say, well, I'll do this myself. I'll clobber something together. But I think it's safe to say that maybe you can't do everything outsourced, but find 1 or 2 things that you think you need the most help with, and then go talk to somebody, right? Most professionals will be happy to spend a few minutes with you and talk to you, and you're not making any kind of upfront commitment. So find out if somebody can actually help you, and then sit back and look and say, does spending this money put me in a place where I can either get to somewhere that I'm not right now, or does it free me up to do the things that I can do better than anyone else in my company can do? Because let's face it, we're all really good at something, right? And so whatever that thing is what we should be doing most of the time. We shouldn't be spending it on other things, whatever that might be. So that's my takeaway from all of this. I don't know if you guys have anything to add to that, or you disagree with me. Feel free to throw things at me if you think I'm crazy.
Sounds
My
about right.
takeaway would be around that prioritization. And for me, I spend one day a year where it's blocked on my calendar to do exactly what you're recommending, Jim. It's what needs to be addressed the most in the coming year. And that it gives me the full view of my year that I've already had, and then looking forward to where I need to be going. And so it can help me put my budget together for the year. So,
Okay. Well, this has been great. Paul, appreciate you jumping on here and helping us out. I think people are getting sick of looking at Marcia and me. So I appreciate you doing that for us. And who knows, maybe we'll come back to you again soon. But for Paul and for Marcia, I'm Jim Norris, and thanks for watching.